Good afternoon. Welcome to Salam Media Highlights with myself, Salilo Makwidiri. This is a segment where we give you a daily dose of the most trending and most important news that we need to unpack, especially during the afternoon times. And in a bit, we'll be delving into a heated local controversy that has sparked passionate debate within Cape Town's historic Bo-Kaap region, where a proposed six-story development on the Badenkracht Street intended to house a hotel and a restaurant has ignited fierce opposition from residents who fear it threatens the cultural and heritage of their beloved neighborhood. And in a bit, we'll be speaking to Jacky Poking. She's part of the Bo-Kaap Civic. Jacky, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really a pleasure having you join us today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having us on your show.
I think first and foremost, if you can just give us, a quick overview of this new development, this proposed six-story development, and what its intended use, and also why you guys are opposing it so much. Because when someone hears of such a development, the first thing they'll think about is job creation. Stats came out yesterday that more than 40% of South Africans are unemployed. A development like that in the Bo-Kaap region, surely it would be something that would be appreciated, but that's not the case. What's happening?
Sure. I think I need to just give a little background for your listeners as well with regards to this particular development. That particular space, you just had the picture up, has been controversial since 2006, 2007, when the Heritage Authority at the time allowed the demolition of what was on that property to be demolished and then approved a building of 10 stories. Now we come into the picture. So fast forward 10 years. At the time in 2007, the neighbors and the surrounding community did not participate in public participation. In fact, it wasn't a thing as it is now. We know things change, people's views change, and as communities stand up for their rights and they realize what their rights are, the landscape around heritage has also changed, where officials are starting to realize that we do have a voice and what we consider to be heritage is important, which is our living cultural heritage. So fast forward 10 years later, the property is sold, new owners buy it, and they want to now enforce the 10-story building. So already at that point, we had a problem with 10 stories. Through various iterations, this has been ongoing. I have to say it's been ongoing. We've now reached the point where it is at 6 stories, where the Municipal Planning Tribunal has approved the 6 stories. We still feel that, yes, it's an improvement from 10, but 6 is still too high. It impacts in the way that we live in Bo-Kaap. For example, that particular space is right next to the Auwal Masjid, the first and the oldest masjid in the country. It's got a national heritage status. The house next to it that you see is a provincial heritage site. So that particular block is a highly sensitive heritage node. And this building, as much as it will bring jobs, we have to ask, what kind of jobs is it bringing and for who? Because it is not necessarily with Bo-Kaap in mind that the hotel is being built. And you also have to ask, do we really need another hotel in Bo-Kaap? People and tourists come to Bo-Kaap and it's an attraction because of our living heritage. It's not just the fact that the houses are colorful. People feel safe. They come to Bo-Kaap. They feel they can speak and listen to the tour guides and the local community. When they walk in our area, they feel welcome and they observe our living heritage and the traditions. Now, just to touch on the Auwal Masjid, you know the history of the Auwal Masjid. It was the land and the masjid was given to the Mohammedan people by Sada van der Kaap. In fact, her mother had started the process. So when Tuan Guru needed a place in order to teach, he had asked Sada van der Kaap, and she had gifted that to the people for Islamic studies and for a congregation together. Because Islam in the Cape was banned at the time. You couldn't practice any other religion other than the Dutch reform. So this woman had the foresight to give this land for this purposes, And the Auwal Masjid is still being used for that. We still have madrasa, we still have the congregation meeting. In fact, there are various social programs as well that's happening. So in terms of living heritage, we have continued that tradition that started with Tuan Guru. So a
mm,
hotel right next to it is at 6 stories still too high. We welcome the fact that it is being developed. It's been
mm,
empty for a long time, but
mm,
not necessarily at 6 stories. And we are asking that the decision makers take that into account when they sit with us and apply their minds. We are not being
mm,
unreasonable. I think we are being very fair. We are cognizant of the fact that the building is most probably going to happen, but we are asking that it should not be that high, that there should be considerations given for the way that we live and work.
mm. I want to touch a bit on, just the general setting of Bo-Kaap currently. I think in the last few years, I've been to Cape Town a few times, especially this year. There's been some major developments around Bo-Kaap. A lot of buildings being, erected, some pieces of land being sold, even some of the houses, being sold for like hotels and, for B&Bs and everything. Do you think there's a deliberate attempt to gentrify the Bo-Kaap area? Do you think this is done deliberately by the city to push the original community of Bo-Kaap out of the area so that they turn it into this big tourist attraction that is
Correct.
soulless and has its original inhabitants not even benefiting from its existence?
Exactly. That is exactly what is happening. Even though we have 19 national heritage sites, we have a heritage protection overlay zone, we do find that the authorities, those decision makers, for whatever reason, feel that they cannot and will not. I don't think they have the political will to even try to protect the Bo-Kaap and the way of life. Gentrification is forcing our people out of the area. Rates and taxes are very high. It is not cheap to live in Bo-Kaap. Our people are not rich. We have our residents, most of them have inherited their homes. It's been in the family for generations. So they did not buy at market related prices, but they get taxed and their rates are priced at market related prices. So, for example, if this hotel goes up, every property in the surrounding area will increase in terms of the value, which means those residents have to pay the rates on that market value, which is not fair. It pushes people out. And yes, people do sell, but that's because they can't afford to live in Bo-Kaap anymore. It is
Mm,
extremely expensive, even just to rent. For example, I rent and I pray and I'm thankful that the owner is able to allow me to stay at a very reasonable rate for myself. But I am concerned that there are others like me who are worried every day that they don't know how long they'll be able to live in Bo-Kaap because rents and properties are way beyond what locals can afford.
mm, mm. One question, someone would ask, Jackie, is how do you balance, the two? How do you get development in the area? Cape Town is a popular tourist attraction for, both South Africans and international visitors. How do you balance developing it and make sure that is profitable to people, but also maintaining the culture, the heritage, and the tradition that the Bo-Kaap area is so rich in?
In fact, that's exactly what you need to ask. Is it development at all cost? Because why do people come to Bo-Kaap? We have to ask the question, are they coming to Bo-Kaap just because it's another neighborhood? In fact, if it is just another neighborhood, I'm not sure if you know the history of Bo-Kaap in terms of how big it was. Bo-Kaap used to stretch all the way past what is now the Waterkant and
Mm,
within to the city as well. But due to the group areas and apartheid, it had forced those people out and violently displaced them. And Bo-Kaap became smaller to the area that is now known as Bo-Kaap. So if you think of the houses and colorful house and the architecture, the area that's now the Waterkant has exactly the same architecture, and that because it was Bo-Kaap. But
mm,
why are those areas not over tourism? Why are they not having so many tourists coming to that? Because in the Devatakan area, you have restaurants, you have pubs, you have Airbnbs, you have bed and breakfast places, but you don't see them overrun or even complaining about over tourism, because there's a difference. What has happened in Bo-Kaap is that our people that could still remain is still here, and they are practicing those cultures and those traditions, and that attracts the tourists. So the question should be asked, do we, at the cost of the people living here, at the cost of those traditions, build these developments and allow them to happen? Because if that continues and the people of Bo-Kaap has to move because they can't afford to stay here, we are going to sit with an area that, like you said, has got no soul, has got no spirit, and the tourists are not going to come anymore. So it cannot be development at all costs. Yes, there should be a balance, but in some cases, we need to uphold heritage over those development rights. And that's what we're asking those officials to apply their minds to.
Speaking of officials, what has been your latest engagement with them? We know that Cape Town's Deputy Mayor Eddie Andrews has defended the tribunal's decision, stating that all the relevant regulations have been followed, and they are good to go with regarding the project. The latest meeting with officials with the city, where are you guys at when it comes to engagements?
So at this moment, we have submitted our appeal. It was due last month at the end of July, so that appeal has been submitted and it's been acknowledged as received. We are waiting for the appeals committee to come back with a date for when the appeal will be heard, and we have asked for representation in order to be there to in person make our case, and from there a decision will be made by that particular committee, and they will make a recommendation to the executive mayor. And we are appealing that we cannot have a situation where it's a tick box exercise. This is a highly sensitive area. It's obviously something very close to many people's hearts. We are saying, do not just say we followed the regulation when it has an impact on our lives. We're not talking about just a building. It affects the way that we live. It affects us directly. So when an official makes a decision and says, oh, we've done this, we've ticked box exercise, we did this, we did that, we did that, that cannot be good enough. It just cannot be good enough. So I do not accept that, yes, they have followed the regulation. To make it an extreme case, apartheid was the law of the time. So the apartheid government also just followed the regulation. So I'm saying now is that an official cannot just hide behind the regulation. We followed it. We are asking them to open their minds, apply their minds, and hear us. Hear what we are asking. I don't think it's unreasonable. I think it's very fair to ask them to listen to us and to listen to our concerns and to uphold their heritage.
I think we're going to leave it here for now, Jackie, and I'm sure as the story continues to unfold, we'll definitely be hearing more from you to get those updates. Really appreciate you giving us your time and joining us, but we're going to leave it here for now. Shazakla so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was Jacky Poking, member of the Bo-Kaap Civic, and the old
We offer clean, hygienic abattoirs.